The morning sun cast long shadows across the quiet hospital corridor as William sat beside Kate's bed, holding her hand gently in his. 23 years of marriage had brought them through countless joys and challenges, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. The doctors had delivered the news 3 months ago. Kate's cancer had returned, and this time, treatment options were limited. Kate's eyes fluttered open, and she turned toward her husband with the same warm smile that had captured his heart decades ago. Despite the illness that had weakened her body, her spirit remained unbroken. She squeezed his hand with what little strength she had left, and William felt his throat tighten with emotion. "Good morning, my love," she whispered, her voice soft but filled with the tenderness that had been their constant companion throughout their journey together. William leaned closer, brushing a strand of silver hair from her forehead. The wedding ring on his finger caught the morning light, a symbol of promises made in happier times. Their children, Emma and James, had spent the night in the hospital waiting room, unable to bear the thought of leaving their mother's side. At 21 and 19, they had grown into remarkable young adults, carrying within them the best qualities of both parents. Emma had inherited Kate's compassion and grace, while James possessed William's quiet strength and determination. The small hospital room had become a sanctuary of love and memories. Photographs covered the bedside table, wedding pictures, family vacations, graduation ceremonies, and countless everyday moments that had woven the fabric of their shared life. Each image told a story of love that had deepened with time, growing stronger through both triumph and adversity. Kate had always been the heart of their family, the one who remembered birthdays, organized holiday gatherings, and created the warm atmosphere that made their house a true home. She had worked as a teacher for 15 years before the children were born, touching the lives of hundreds of students with her patience and kindness. Even after becoming a full-time mother, she had volunteered at the local library, reading stories to children and organizing literacy programs for adults. William worked as an engineer at a local firm, but his greatest achievement had always been the family they had built together. He was known among friends and colleagues as a devoted husband and father, someone who never missed a school play or soccer game, who could be counted on in times of need. The diagnosis had come as a shock to everyone who knew Kate. She had always been healthy and active, taking daily walks around their neighborhood, tending to her beloved garden, and maintaining a positive outlook that inspired everyone around her. When she first felt the persistent fatigue and noticed the subtle changes in her body, she had initially dismissed them as signs of aging or stress. Now, as morning light filled the hospital room, William found himself treasuring every moment, every word, every shared glance. The medical equipment surrounding them seemed to fade into the background as they focused solely on each other, on the love that had sustained them through more than 2 decades of marriage. Kate's hand moved slowly to touch William's cheek, and he closed his eyes at her gentle touch. She had always been able to comfort him with the simplest gestures, understanding his moods and needs without words. In this moment, despite her own pain and weakness, she was still trying to ease his suffering, still putting his well-being before her own. Dr. Martinez entered the room quietly, her expression gentle but serious. She had been Kate's oncologist for the past 3 months, and during that time, she had developed a deep respect for the courage and grace with which Kate faced her illness. The doctor's presence meant it was time for the daily consultation, but today felt different from the others. Emma and James joined their parents, moving chairs closer to the bed so they could all be together. The family had developed a routine over the past weeks, gathering each morning to hear updates and spend precious time together. The hospital staff had come to admire their unity and the way they supported one another through each difficult day. "Kate, how are you feeling this morning?" Dr. Martinez asked, checking the monitors and making notes on her tablet. Kate's vitals had been steadily declining, but her spirit remained remarkably strong. The doctor had seen many patients in similar situations, but Kate's positive attitude and the family's unwavering love created an atmosphere of peace rather than despair. Kate smiled at the doctor, the same gracious expression she had always worn when meeting new people or facing challenges. "I'm surrounded by love, doctor. That makes everything easier to bear." Her words carried a wisdom that came from years of choosing gratitude over bitterness, hope over fear. William watched as his wife spoke with the doctor, marveling at her ability to remain composed and thoughtful even in these circumstances. Throughout their marriage, Kate had been the family's emotional anchor, the one who helped them navigate difficult times with patience and understanding. She had taught their children the importance of treating others with kindness, of finding joy in simple pleasures, and of facing adversity with courage. The conversation with Dr. Martinez confirmed what they all knew but hadn't yet spoken aloud. Kate's condition was deteriorating more rapidly than expected. The treatments that had initially shown promise were no longer effective, and her body was growing weaker each day. The doctor explained the situation with compassion, ensuring the family understood while also respecting their need for hope. After Dr. Martinez left, the family sat in comfortable silence, each lost in their own thoughts and memories. The hospital room had become a sacred space where time seemed suspended, where the outside world's demands and distractions couldn't intrude upon their intimate moments together. Emma reached for her mother's hand, remembering all the times Kate had comforted her during childhood illnesses, teenage heartbreaks, and moments of uncertainty. Kate had always known exactly what to say, how to offer guidance without being overbearing, how to provide support while encouraging independence. The lessons she had taught went far beyond words. They were embedded in countless small acts of love and sacrifice. James sat quietly beside his father, thinking about the many conversations they had shared over the years. Kate had been his confidant during the turbulent teenage years, the one who helped him understand his changing emotions and navigate the complexities of growing up. She had attended every baseball game, celebrated every academic achievement, and offered comfort during every disappointment. William's mind drifted to their early years together, remembering the shy young woman he had met at a community college dance. Kate had been studying to become a teacher, already displaying the nurturing nature that would later make her such a wonderful mother. Their courtship had been filled with long walks, quiet conversations, and the gradual discovery that they shared the same values and dreams for the future. Their wedding had been a simple affair, surrounded by family and close friends in the small church where Kate had grown up. They had written their own vows, promising to love and support each other through all of life's challenges. Looking back, William realized that Kate had kept every promise she had made that day and more. The afternoon brought visitors from their close-knit community. Word had spread about Kate's condition, and friends, neighbors, and former students had been quietly stopping by to pay their respects and offer support. The hospital staff had been accommodating, understanding that Kate's impact on others made these visits important for everyone involved. Margaret, Kate's longtime friend and teaching colleague, arrived with a bouquet of sunflowers from Kate's own garden. The two women had worked together for over a decade, and Margaret had witnessed firsthand Kate's dedication to her students and her natural ability to inspire learning. She sat beside the bed, sharing memories of their time in the classroom and the countless lives Kate had touched through her teaching. "Do you remember the year we had that particularly challenging class?" Margaret asked, her eyes brightening with the memory. "You never gave up on any of those kids, even when other teachers said they were hopeless. By the end of the year, half of them were reading above grade level." Kate's eyes sparkled with the recollection, and she squeezed her friend's hand appreciatively. Former students had also come to visit, now adults with families of their own. Sarah, who had struggled with reading until Kate's patient tutoring helped her succeed, brought her own daughter to meet the teacher who had changed her life. "Mrs. Kate taught me that everyone learns differently," Sarah explained to her 6-year-old daughter. "She never made me feel stupid when I couldn't read the words right away." The steady stream of visitors revealed the breadth of Kate's influence in their community. The librarian where she had volunteered brought letters from children who remembered her reading stories during summer programs. The pastor from their church spoke quietly with William about Kate's contributions to various charitable activities and her quiet generosity toward families in need. Each visitor brought their own special memory, creating a tapestry of Kate's life that extended far beyond her roles as wife and mother. There was the elderly neighbor whose groceries Kate had carried for years after her hip surgery, the young mother who credited Kate with helping her through postpartum depression, and the teenager who found direction in life after Kate's mentorship during a difficult period. Emma and James listened to these stories with wonder, learning about aspects of their mother's life they had never fully understood. They had always known she was special, but hearing testimony from so many different people helped them appreciate the true scope of her impact on others. It was clear that Kate had lived a life of quiet service, touching hearts and changing lives without seeking recognition or praise. The hospital room became a celebration of a life well lived, filled with laughter, tears, and profound gratitude. Kate, though weak, seemed energized by the presence of so many people she cared about. She listened to each story, offered words of encouragement to those who needed them, and expressed appreciation for the love being shown to her family. As evening approached and the visitors gradually departed, Kate turned to William with tears in her eyes. "I never realized how many lives we touched together," she whispered. "All those ordinary moments, all those simple acts of kindness, they mattered more than I knew." William nodded, understanding that their life together had been rich not because of grand gestures or major accomplishments, but because of the consistent love and care they had shown to others. The nurse who had been caring for Kate throughout her stay stopped by to check on the family. She had worked in oncology for over 15 years and had cared for hundreds of patients, but Kate's grace and the family's unity had touched her deeply. "In all my years of nursing," she told William quietly, "I've rarely seen a family handle such difficult circumstances with such love and dignity. Your wife is an extraordinary woman." As night fell, the family prepared for what they sensed might be their last evening together. The medical monitors showed Kate's declining condition, but her spirit remained peaceful and strong. She had faced the day surrounded by evidence of a life well lived, supported by the love of family and friends who would carry her memory forward. The evening hours brought a profound sense of peace to the hospital room. Kate had requested that they spend this time sharing their favorite memories together, wanting to focus on joy rather than sorrow. The family gathered around her bed, and one by one they began to recall the moments that had defined their journey together. Emma spoke first, her voice soft but steady. She remembered the summer when she was 12 and had broken her arm falling from her bicycle. Kate had stayed with her every moment during the emergency room visit, distracting her from the pain with silly songs and made-up stories. "You turned the scariest day of my childhood into an adventure," Emma said, holding her mother's hand. "You always knew how to make everything better." James shared his memory of the time he had been cut from the high school basketball team. He had come home devastated, feeling like a failure and wondering if he would ever be good at anything. Kate had sat with him on the back porch and talked about how disappointment was part of growing up, how it taught resilience and helped people discover new paths. Within a week, she had helped him find a volunteer coaching position with the elementary school team, where he discovered his love for teaching younger children. William's voice was thick with emotion as he recalled their 20th wedding anniversary. Money had been tight that year due to unexpected medical bills, and they couldn't afford the romantic getaway they had planned. Instead, Kate had surprised him with a picnic in their own backyard, complete with candles, their wedding song playing on an old radio, and a photo album she had secretly compiled of their life together. "You showed me that love isn't about expensive gestures," he said. "It's about choosing each other every single day." Kate listened to each memory with a radiant smile, occasionally adding her own details or sharing how those moments had affected her. She spoke about the pride she felt watching Emma graduate summa cum laude from college, the joy of seeing James find his passion for environmental science, and the daily happiness of sharing life with William through all its ups and downs. As the night deepened, Kate began sharing her own cherished memories. She talked about the morning Emma was born, how tiny and perfect she had seemed, and how holding her for the first time had filled her with a love she hadn't known was possible. She remembered James's first steps, how he had toddled across the living room straight into William's arms, creating a moment of pure family joy that she had replayed in her mind countless times. She spoke about their early years of marriage, when they had lived in a small apartment and struggled to make ends meet. Those had been difficult times financially, but they had been rich in love and dreams. She remembered how they would take evening walks because they couldn't afford entertainment, talking about their hopes for the future and planning the family they wanted to build together. Kate also shared memories of quiet, moments that might have seemed insignificant to others, but had meant everything to her. Sunday morning breakfast when the children were young, lazy days spent reading in the garden, family road trips filled with laughter and silly games. She had treasured the ordinary moments as much as the special occasions, understanding that a life well lived was built from countless small joys. The hospital staff moved quietly around them, respecting the sacred nature of these final conversations. They had dimmed the lights and minimized interruptions, understanding that this family needed time to say goodbye in their own way. The room felt filled with love, creating an atmosphere of peace that transcended the sadness of the situation. As midnight approached, Kate's energy began to fade, but her contentment was evident. She had lived to see her children become wonderful adults, had experienced decades of marriage with her soulmate, and had touched countless lives through her work and service. She felt ready for whatever came next, knowing that the love she had given and received would continue long after she was gone. William adjusted her pillows and smoothed her blanket, small acts of care that had become second nature over the years. Kate smiled at his tenderness, remembering all the times he had taken care of her when she was sick, worried, or simply tired from the demands of daily life. Their love had been built on such moments of mutual care and consideration. Dawn was breaking outside the hospital window when Kate gently woke William, who had dozed off in the chair beside her bed. Emma and James were sleeping on the small couch, having refused to leave their mother's side during the night. The early morning light cast a golden glow across the room, creating a sense of peace and new beginnings even in the midst of impending loss. "William," Kate whispered, her voice barely audible but filled with urgent tenderness. "I need to tell you something important." He immediately sat up, taking her hand in both of his, giving her his complete attention. Her eyes, though tired, still held the love and warmth that had been his anchor for over 2 decades. Kate spoke slowly, choosing her words carefully. She wanted William to know how grateful she was for their life together, how he had been everything she had hoped for in a husband and partner. She told him that their love had been her greatest achievement, more meaningful than any career success or personal accomplishment. "You gave me a life filled with purpose and joy," she said. "You helped me become the person I was meant to be." She asked him to promise that he would continue living fully after she was gone, that he wouldn't let grief prevent him from finding happiness again. "The children will need you to show them how to heal," she said. "They'll learn how to move forward by watching how you choose to honor our love while embracing whatever comes next." William's tears fell freely as he listened, but he nodded his understanding. Kate had always been wise about emotional matters, helping him navigate his feelings and make decisions from a place of love rather than fear. Even now, facing her own mortality, she was thinking about his well-being and their children's future. Emma and James woke as their parents were talking and quietly joined the conversation. Kate spoke to each of them individually, sharing final words of love and guidance. She told Emma to trust in her own strength and intelligence, reminding her that she was capable of achieving anything she set her mind to. "You have such a beautiful heart," Kate said. "Use it to make the world a little better wherever you go." To James, she spoke about the importance of staying curious and passionate about the things that mattered to him. She reminded him of his natural ability to connect with others and encouraged him to use that gift in his chosen career, working to protect the environment. "Your generation will face challenges we can't imagine," she said, "but you have the tools and the heart to make a difference." The family spent the next hour in quiet conversation, sharing final thoughts and expressing their love for one another. There were tears, but there was also laughter, as they remembered funny moments and inside jokes that had become part of their family's unique history. Kate wanted their last memories together to be filled with the joy that had characterized their relationships. Dr. Martinez arrived for her morning rounds and could immediately sense the change in Kate's condition. She spoke privately with William, confirming what the family already knew. Kate had very little time left. The doctor assured them that Kate was comfortable and peaceful, that her body was simply ready to let go. As the morning progressed, Kate's breathing became more labored, but she remained conscious and alert. She asked William to read her favorite poem, one she had discovered during their courtship and that had become special to them both. His voice trembled as he recited the familiar words about love transcending time and death, about souls being connected beyond the boundaries of physical existence. The hospital chaplain stopped by to offer prayers and support, spending time with the family and providing comfort during these final hours. Kate, though weak, thanked him for his presence and spoke briefly about her faith and her peace with what was happening. She had always believed that love was eternal, that the bonds formed in life continued beyond death. The afternoon brought a gradual transition as Kate moved between wakefulness and rest. During her conscious moments, she continued to focus on her family, offering gentle words of love and reassurance. She seemed most concerned about their ability to find peace and happiness after she was gone, wanting them to remember her with joy rather than overwhelming sadness. As evening approached, the family could sense that Kate's time was drawing near. They gathered close around her bed, each taking turns to hold her hand and whisper final words of love. The room was filled with a profound sense of gratitude for the time they had shared together and for the privilege of being able to say goodbye. The evening light filtered softly through the hospital window as Kate's breathing became increasingly shallow. The family maintained their vigil around her bed, holding her hands and speaking in gentle whispers. There was no sense of urgency or panic, only a profound feeling of love and acceptance as they prepared to let her go. William leaned close to Kate's ear and began recounting the story of how they had met. Speaking softly about that first dance at the community college social, he reminded her of their first conversation, how nervous he had been to ask her out, and how her laugh had immediately put him at ease. "You saved me that night," he whispered. "You taught me what real love looked like." Kate's eyes fluttered open one last time, and she looked at each member of her family with a gaze filled with infinite love and peace. She squeezed William's hand with the last of her strength, and her lips formed the words, "I love you," though no sound emerged. Emma and James leaned in to kiss her forehead, and she smiled at them with the same tender expression she had worn when they were children. As the sun began to set, casting warm golden light across the hospital room, Kate took her final breath. It was so peaceful that for a moment the family wasn't certain she had gone. William continued holding her hand, and gradually they realized that she was no longer with them. The monitors fell silent, but the room remained filled with an overwhelming sense of her presence and love. Dr. Martinez arrived within minutes, and with gentle professionalism, she confirmed what the family already knew. She spoke quietly with them about the next steps, but there was no rush or pressure. The hospital staff understood the importance of allowing families time to process their loss and say their final goodbyes. The news of Kate's passing spread quickly through their community. The hospital waiting room filled with friends, neighbors, and former students who had come to support the family and honor Kate's memory. The outpouring of love was immediate and overwhelming, with people sharing stories about how Kate had touched their lives and offering practical help during this difficult time. Margaret organized meal deliveries for the family, ensuring they wouldn't have to worry about daily necessities while they grieved. The church where Kate had been an active member began planning a memorial service that would celebrate her life and provide comfort to all who had loved her. Former students created a memory book filled with letters and drawings expressing their gratitude for her influence on their lives. William, Emma, and James spent that first evening at home surrounded by photographs and mementos that captured Kate's essence. The house felt different without her physical presence, but it also felt filled with her love and the memories they had created together over the years. They found comfort in sharing stories and in the knowledge that her influence on their lives would continue forever. The local newspaper published an obituary that captured only a fraction of Kate's impact on others. It mentioned her years as a teacher, her volunteer work at the library, and her role as a devoted wife and mother. But those who knew her understood that words could never fully describe the warmth, kindness, and generosity that had defined her character. In the days that followed, the family was amazed by the number of people who reached out to share their memories of Kate. Letters arrived from students she had taught decades ago, neighbors she had helped during difficult times, and community members whose lives had been brightened by her friendship and support. Emma discovered a journal her mother had kept during her illness, filled with reflections on their family life and expressions of gratitude for the love she had experienced. In the final entry, Kate had written about her hope that her family would remember her with joy rather than sadness, and that they would continue to spread the kind of love and kindness she had tried to model throughout her life. James found strength in organizing environmental projects in his mother's memory, knowing that she would have been proud of his efforts to make the world a better place. He established a scholarship fund at their local high school for students interested in environmental science, ensuring that Kate's legacy would continue to inspire future generations. William began the difficult process of learning to live without his life partner, but he was sustained by the knowledge that their love had been real and lasting. He kept Kate's photo beside their bed and continued to talk to her each morning, sharing his thoughts and feelings as he had done for over 20 years of marriage. 3 months after Kate's passing, The memorial service held in her honor drew hundreds of people from all walks of life. The church was filled to capacity, with many standing in the aisles and others gathered outside to listen through speakers the church had installed to accommodate the crowd. The service became a true celebration of a life that had touched countless hearts. Emma spoke beautifully about her mother's gift for making everyone feel valued and loved. She shared stories about Kate's ability to see potential in people when they couldn't see it in themselves, and how she had taught by example the importance of treating others with dignity and respect. "My mother showed us that the most powerful force in the world is love expressed through daily acts of kindness," Emma said. James read a letter his mother had written to be opened after her death, in which she expressed her gratitude for the wonderful life she had been given, and her hope that her family would continue to find joy and meaning in their own journeys. The letter contained specific messages for each family member, along with her wishes for how she wanted to be remembered. William spoke last, his voice strong despite his grief. He talked about the privilege of sharing 23 years with Kate, and how she had taught him that true wealth was measured not in possessions, but in relationships and the positive impact one has on others. He announced the establishment of the Kate Memorial Foundation, which would provide support for literacy programs and educational initiatives in their community. The service included musical selections that had been meaningful to Kate, including the song that had played during their first dance as a married couple. Former students sang in a choir that performed one of Kate's favorite hymns, their voices creating a beautiful tribute to the teacher who had believed in them when others had not. Following the service, the community gathered for a reception, where people continued to share memories and stories about Kate's influence on their lives. A memory board displayed hundreds of photographs spanning Kate's life, from childhood through her final days, showing the joy and love that had characterized her journey. In the months that followed, William slowly began to rebuild his life, while keeping Kate's memory alive in meaningful ways. He continued their tradition of volunteering at the library, reading stories to children as Kate had done for so many years. He found that sharing her favorite books with young readers brought him comfort and helped him feel connected to her spirit. Emma pursued her master's degree in social work, inspired by her mother's example of service to others. She specialized in family counseling, hoping to help other families navigate difficult times with the same grace and unity her own family had demonstrated. During Kate's illness, James completed his environmental science degree and began working for a conservation organization. He often thought about his mother's belief that each person had a responsibility to leave the world better than they found it. His work protecting natural habitats felt like a continuation of the values she had instilled in him. The community continued to feel Kate's influence long after her death. The literacy programs she had supported flourished. Teachers spoke of her innovative methods for helping struggling students, and neighbors maintained the spirit of caring and mutual support that she had fostered in their area. A year after Kate's passing, the family gathered at her gravesite to mark the anniversary. They brought sunflowers from the garden she had loved, and they spent time sharing updates about their lives and how they were honoring her memory. The sadness of missing her was still present, but it was balanced by gratitude for the time they had shared and the continuing influence of her love. William had learned to carry both grief and joy simultaneously, understanding that loving someone deeply meant that their absence would always leave a mark, but that the love itself was eternal and transformative. He often felt Kate's presence in quiet moments, in the beauty of her garden, in the laughter of their children, and in the kindness shown by friends and strangers alike. The story of Kate's graceful journey through illness and death had moved many people in their community to examine their own lives and relationships. Her example of facing adversity with dignity and focusing on love rather than fear had inspired others to approach their own challenges with greater courage and compassion. As seasons changed and life continued, the family found that Kate's legacy lived on not just in their memories, but in the way they chose to treat others, in the values they upheld, and in the love they continued to share with the world. Her final gift to them had been the demonstration that a life well lived creates ripples of goodness that extend far beyond the boundaries of a single lifetime.